privilege it is to be here today. To Adam, Cedric, Gary, Kevin, thanks so much for your warm invitation. It's really an honour to be here and to be welcomed so warmly back into this community, so thank you very much. I did want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Gadigal people, and I guess today we think about your connection to Israel, your homeland for many of you, and I think about our First Nations people and their connection to country and to place. And in particular, I feel really honoured to be working with our young people, our First Nations young people, and in Pymble, we have 16 young people who identify as Jewish out of just over 2,500 students. So it's particularly important, the work that I do with our community, to try and elevate, I guess, our collective understanding of the past. So I was asked today to speak with you about three things: why I agreed to go on this trip, and what I took away from the trip, and what we're doing moving forward. And it's interesting, you know, many of the decisions that I make at the college are based on a fairly simple formula. I'm a pretty basic person, really, at the heart of it. I'm always interested in what's going to have the greatest impact. So we know that many things are well intended, but very few of them actually have the type of impact that we're chasing as leaders. And so for me, I had beautiful Kevin who phoned me and said, hey, how about this program? Followed by a conversation with Cedric. And I have to say that I had a notion generally that Jewish schools took their young people on a trip to Israel. That was the sum total of my knowledge about any program whatsoever, having led schools for many years all over Australia. That was the sum total of my understanding of what occurred with the connection with Israel and community. I've never ever been approached as a head now of an independent school for 11 years, and as I say, working around the country, I've never been approached to be involved in any such program. And I was really deeply concerned, I guess, about the rise of anti-Semitism in our country, and felt like we have a collective responsibility to do something. And what would be the thing that would have the greatest impact on community? It was really Cedric's passion about March of the Living, and that came very much true over the Zoom call we had. I could feel Cedric leaping down the computer screen with all of his energy and his passion driving me to consider this program. But also I was deeply encouraged by Kevin's courage, by his willingness to step into a part of his life that he knew would open up a sense of pain, and I hope Kevin doesn't mind me speaking about that. But it was Kevin's earnest courage that really encouraged me to be part of this trip. And I do have to say that I'm invited on programs all of the time. This is the only program ever in my career that I've accepted to participate in. So it was a big decision for me, and a big decision for my board to support me being on this program. What lots of people don't know about me is that I'm really introverted, and actually being on a busload of people that I don't know it's probably not my go-to happy place. And I felt really anxious heading into the program, knowing that actually I'm a Christian. I'm going to be on a bus in a culture I don't understand, with a group of people that many of whom are good friends and have their partners on the program. I knew Kevin, that was helpful, and I knew a little about Cedric, and that was encouraging. But I didn't know anybody else, and so I guess it was really out of my comfort zone. But what I learned was that Jewish people are so friendly and warm and welcoming and nurturing and encouraging, and that was a beautiful thing that I took away from the program for sure. I think when I started the program, I guess I had in the back of my mind a little sense of feeling ashamed and embarrassed about my lack of deep understanding about the Holocaust. And I'm a history teacher by trade. And when we look at our curriculum around our nation, what we do understand is that there is such a tiny representation of Holocaust education in our curriculum nationally. Victoria does the best of the lot, thanks to the Gendel Foundation and their remarkable work in Victoria and their lobbying of government education. If you've got anything to do with that foundation, please continue to support their marvellous work. They do great work here in Australia. But as for the rest of us, it's barely touched. And by barely touched, I mean 1 or 2 lessons in the lifetime of a student's journey through their education. One or two lessons. It's remarkable, isn't it, for the biggest genocide the world has ever seen. It's truly remarkable. So I felt a commitment to try and help our students, and therefore our future decision makers, understand this period of history and why it is so important that this never occur again. I think probably I was really overwhelmed by the magnitude. I was overwhelmed, I think, by the magnitude of the horror. One of the things that really took me on the trip was that I might have known about Auschwitz-Birkenau, but I had no idea about the scale. Just in Poland, I had no idea about the number of ghettos, about the number of death camps. I had absolutely no concept of that. And that was something that really took me by surprise. And that was just one small place of what was a much broader place of conflict. I think the other thing that really took me by surprise was just was the lack of human dignity. And when we think about how we feel when something is taken away from us, where we feel like it's our right or it's connected to us, we feel such a strong emotion to that. And I felt like the lack of human kindness, the lack of dignity was something that really shocked me, and I guess was something that I took back to our students when I was talking with them about, imagine if you were not able to do this or this was taken away from you. And that's outside of the death. That's outside of the death. It's about human dignity and human kindness and the lack thereof. That was something that really impacted on me during this trip. The two things I think that probably I took away most strongly from the trip. The first one was just the impact of generational trauma and how in our community we walk alongside people who are deeply traumatised, not by things that occurred to them, but by things that occurred to their families, by things that occurred to their loved ones, and not in their lifetime, but in lifetimes before them, and how we care for and how we think about supporting our young people in particular who are deeply impacted and continue to be deeply impacted by generational trauma was something I spent a lot of time thinking about. The other thing was I really hadn't thought about having nothing to return to. And I speak to our students quite a bit about this. Imagine that. We think about the end of conflict, the end of a war. Hurrah, it's over. How great is that? But going into Poland and thinking about what would it be like to actually be in this situation where the world's celebrating the end of something horrible, but actually it's just the beginning of something horrible for you. That returning to nothing and nobody, that concept of being truly alone, walking back into a community and having nothing there that represents who you are, was something that really deeply touched me and something that I talk to our students about quite often. Having an opportunity to speak with those who walked the journey, and I'm so privileged to be amongst survivors today. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all that you do and the work that you continue to do, in particular, as I say, with our young people. Our students do go to the Jewish Museum, and they always come back and share with me stories about how they met survivors and how privileged they felt to have an opportunity to walk side by side with you. So thank you. I wanted to say a huge thank you to the friends I met along the way. It's with the deepest of gratitude that I welcome these people into my life. I felt absolutely honoured to be a part of their lives and hope that that connection continues into the future. But I did want to today acknowledge Cedric, and I was laughing. When I went through all of my photos, I thought, oh my goodness, I can't find a photo of Cedric on his own. And I thought, doesn't that represent Cedric though, right? You know, always busily doing something, never really wanting to be in the front, but actually wanting to be beside and around and supporting and encouraging. And Cedric, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have attended this program, and I'll share with you next a little about the impact of being on that program. I may not have loved those 7:30 bus departures, particularly after a night on the dance floor, but Cedric, there is a comment about significance that really sits with me, and that is, significance isn't what we get, it's what we do for others. And Cedric, you are a person of significance because what you do for others really means something. So thank you so much for the work that you do. I wanted to talk you through two experiences since coming back, and the first one is our Year 9 students. So to give you a little context, we have 284 Year 9 students at Pymble, and of those 284, one of those students is Jewish or identifies as being Jewish. So our staff invited our Year 9 girls to do a project based on genocide. They weren't specific, about what they chose. But of course, as I mentioned, I speak with the girls, and I spoke with them at length both before I went on this trip and when I came back from this trip. And they invited me to come to the library, which is a very large 2-storey building, to come and have a look at the projects that they've been doing. The staff didn't give me any forewarning about what I was walking into. And I wished so much that I could have had all of you with me. And in future, if this is repeated, I will invite many more of you to come and be part of that journey with me. It was absolutely overwhelming. I was truly overwhelmed. The students were broken into groups of 2, 3 or 4, and every project bar 4 focused on the Holocaust, every single project. So imagine walking into a very large 2-storey building where every single student had set up their project, and walking past desk after desk after desk to have these types of projects represented, your people represented, a true understanding, students who are standing there with humility and love, wanting for this to never occur and wanting to connect deeply with this part of our history. I felt the deepest sense of pride. I was also really overwhelmed. And I had one question for the students as I walked around and spoke with each of them, and my question was, how has studying this impacted on you? And I would love to be able to share their words with you, because the work that they did really had an impact on them, and that would not have occurred if it hadn't been for the generous donors who give to this March of the Living program, who enabled me to attend the program, for Cedric and Kevin for their passion to get me onto the program, and for everybody who was on the program with me, who really went out of their way to make me feel so much a part of the community, and I'm deeply grateful. The second thing I want to share with you is difficult to watch. This was a group of our Year 12 drama students last year who came to me, HSC drama students, who came to me and said they were really moved by me speaking about this program, and they wanted to focus on this for the Year 12 drama piece. They spent a bit of time speaking with some of the participants who went on the program with me, and they constructed the most incredibly powerful piece that was then selected into the top state awards following their rendition of it. You will find this hard to watch, so I am giving you a warning about this. I've clipped it, so it's just a tiny little piece of the presentation that the girls put together. None of these students are Jewish. None of them are Jewish. These students will go on to be the decision makers of the future. These students will go on to make decisions that inform community, that shape the way that we come together, not only nationally but globally. And so the impact that this program has had has been truly transformational. I'll play it now.
There is a taste, but it is bitter. The smoke of the chimney rose every day and every night. At night. There is an odour that I cannot smell.
Pack this content to be sent back.
But that's my. The suitcases hastily packed were unpacked. We sorted the contents to be sent back to Germany.
Everything was worth keeping, except one thing: human life.
Again, not Jewish students. What I really want to say is that things like this are hard to watch because they make us feel something. And that's what we always have to remember, that knowledge is important, but feeling is even more important. So please keep engaging in the work that you're doing. I'll keep supporting this work, and next year, Gary and Pymble are hoping that we can look to start a program in 2026 with our students, and hopefully lots of other schools like ours where there are not many Jewish students represented. We're really looking forward to continuing to work with Gary, and we thank him very much for the flexibility that he's shown us in trying to get this program off the ground. I want to just finish by saying, for all of you who have been involved, remember that you are significant. The work that you do is significant, not because it benefits you, but because of how it impacts on the people around you. Thank you so much for the incredible opportunity to be a part of this program and of this amazing group of people. Never forget.